Hi everybody, Dave here, and welcome back to another one. You know, if you've ever fished Alabama or umbrella rigs, you know just how effective they can be as a lure. But you probably also know that they're not the easiest thing on the wallet either. So today I set out to build and make my own Alabama rigs. But I didn't want to make them out of epoxy or clay or some twisted wire. I decided to try and make them as professional looking as possible and to pour them out of lead. So I'm going to show you step by step just how I did it. So stick around. So let's start off in the beginning here. What you're going to need, and these are going to be lead Alabama rigs. You see some guys make them out of epoxy and different things. I want to pour them out of lead. So what I did was I went and I got a hunk of steel here, and this is about 1.5 inches by 2.5 inches. And you can make this any dimension you want. And what I did was I cut this piece off of it right there. And that's about 7/8 of an inch thick. And what I'm going to do now is I've center punched the middle here. I'm going to drill down almost and leave about an 1/8 inch here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to step drill it. So in other words, I'm going to start with a smaller drill and keep working up. And I'm going to do it on the drill press so that I have a stop and I won't go through the bottom. And I'm going to leave about an 1/8 inch of metal on the bottom here. Then I'm going to drill a pilot hole for my wire, for my eyelet. And I'll show you how to do that in a minute. But so the next thing I want to do is I want to drill this through and get this ready. And then I've got this little piece of flat bar. I'm going to weld this on here at the very bottom like that, so that I can clamp it on the table to do my pours just like this. So with that out of the way, let's jump over to the drill press and we'll start drilling holes here. Okay, I'm going to start on the drill press here, and then what I did is I set the stop up here so that when I bring this drill bit down, it stops about an 1/8 inch from the top of the wood here. Now this piece will just slide in there, and now I can drill it down and know I'm not going to go through the wood, the steel. And then what I'll do is change out the bits, bring it down again, test it, change the stop, make sure it stops at about the same spot, and continue to do that. Now if you don't have a drill press, you can just put this against where you want it to go, put a little mark there, put a piece of tape around the drill, and just do with a hand drill, put this in a vise and drill it that way. So I'm going to clamp this down and I'll make these different drills sizes. I'm going to start with about a 5/16 drill and then work my way up. So what I did was I started working from a 1/2 inch up. I went 9/16, 5/8, and I kept working up very small increments because even so you can see there's a little chatter around the hole here. And so I finally got up to 3/4. I want this heavy enough so that I can use it for deeper, rigs. And so you can make this hole any size you want. It's all personal preference. So this is 3/4 inch diameter and it's about 7/8 deep. Now if you look in the very bottom of the hole, you'll see that it comes to a point. It sort of tapers down like a funnel. And that's where we're going to drill the hole for our wire that's going to be our eyelet. And so I'm going to find a drill bit that's just slightly bigger than the 18 gauge wire that we're going to use for this build. And then I'm going to drill that hole and weld the tab on so we can clamp it to the table, and then we'll be ready to assemble our wires and pour. Okay, to make our arms on our umbrella rigs, what I have here is some 18 gauge wire, and this happens to be galvanized. Stainless steel would be better, and you can pick that up as well. This is a 25-pound, and I'm assuming that is just a working load. So usually there's like a 4 times variable for, safety load. So this probably has a breaking strength of around 100 pounds, but they always make the working load less. So this is, like I said, 18 gauge wire. I got this at Ace Hardware. It was $6 for this roll, which is about 100 feet. So to make our wires arms, all we're going to do is we're going to cut 3 pieces of wire 18 inches. And you can make this any length you want. If you want shorter, rigs for Alabama rigs, make them less. But these are about 18 inches, and that's what I'm going to use for this build here. Now, there's a couple of ways. What we have to do is we have to connect all these so we can put them in our mold, and that they'll have the full strength. You don't want to have the lead depending or holding up the integrity of this lure. You want all the integrity to go onto the wires here. So what I'm going to do is, to make this really easy, is I'm going to take 2 of the wires. I'm going to find approximately the middle, just like this. And then I'm going to take this 3rd wire and I'm going to stick it out from the top here about 4 inches or so. And then what I'm going to do is just wrap it around very tightly, just like that. Okay? And so what you have is this loop like that. Then all you have to do is find the middle and just bend these other wires downward, just like this. All right? And once they are down, you can just take a pair of pliers and just flatten them out, just like this. So it's very compact, just like that. And that's what it should look like. Now this is going to go into our mold. This will go down in our hole that we have in the bottom of the mold, and these will stick up. So I'll show you how that works now. Now, the other thing is, you might have noticed I have a pair of scrolling pliers here, and these work really well for making, like loops and bends and stuff. But it's not necessary to have these. If you don't have a pair of scrolling pliers, you can just use a nail like this to wrap the wire around to make some nice loops. So let's jump over to the mold, and I'll show you how this gets put in place and how we pour it. So here's the mold I made, and with the hole already drilled in it, and I put another hole here so I could fasten a screw to the table. I just want to take our tag end here, and I want to stick it in the hole at the bottom of the mold, just like that. Now I'm going to hold these wires up as I pour lead around that. And as soon as it solidifies, it'll pull right out. One of the things I like to do is make sure this is hot. So the best thing to do is make up a bunch of your wires, and then that way you can pour one after the other. So this has been setting a little bit, so I want to heat it up so everything flows and stays, molten for a little bit. It gives me time to adjust things. So I'll just hit it with the torch. Okay, now I just hold the wires up and use my ingot pot to get a good pour here. So now that this has been poured, what I want to do is I bent the wires down to how they're going to go, and this will pull out. As you can see, it'll lift out, but I don't want to take it out just yet. I want to straighten and strengthen these wires. So the way I do that is I just take the very end like this, and I just bend it over and flatten it out. Just like that. What that's going to allow me to do is to put it in the chuck, because this wire is a little small for this chuck to grab. Now you can see how twisted and curly this wire is, but as I just run the drill slowly, you'll see it straighten out and it'll actually become stronger. You can see it. See how it strengthens it? So I'm going to go around and do all 5 of these wires, and then we'll be ready to put on our spinner blades. Okay, now with all 5 of our wires tightened and strengthened, now stiffened up, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in for spinner blades. So I want to come back maybe 3 inches or so, and what I want to do is I want to just hold this like this and bring it over and around, just like this. And I'm just creating a loop, just like that. I'll do one on this side so you can see it a little bit from an angle. Just going to come over, just like that. And I just keep moving along doing that. Okay, so now that I have our loops in here, I want these loops to face up. I want them to be facing towards the back of, the trailing lures. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a swivel like this, swivel snap, and just slide it on the end. I've cut the ends off so I could do this. And now I'm going to just take this and I'm going to spread it just enough where I can get it on here, just like that. You feel it sort of click on there, and then just twist this back together. And that's on there. It's not going anywhere. So now that that's on there, I have a willow blade. It's about 2 inches, inch and a half or so. All I'm going to do is take the snap swivel and open it up and drop that blade on there. This is just going to give it some extra flash, and this is optional. You don't have to add these, but I thought it'd just give it a little extra flash and more attractiveness in the water for the fish. So I'm going to do this to each of these all the way around, and then I'm going to fashion snap swivels on the ends of these as well. Okay, so to do the end snap swivels, which are going to be attached out here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the pliers here as a gauge, and I'll go to the center of the wire out and snip off just a little bit. Make these arms the length of the pliers. You can do them whatever you want, and it's just a matter of sliding this on here and bringing it around. I'm going to keep about 3/4 of an inch from the pliers to the end here, and then I'm going to bend that around like this. Bring this back down like that. So as you can see, I bent it over a little bit, just like this. And so what I'm going to do now is just hold this back with a pair of pliers this way so it doesn't twist, and then just using these pliers loosely on there, just wrap around. Just like that. And that's what it looks like, all done. Now I can attach my jig heads to this just by clipping them in, just opening up, snap swivel, put my jig head through, put my swim bait onto that. I'll do that for all 4 and for the long one. Now this trailer one, I want this to be about 3 inches or 2 inches longer than the side ones. And that'll make this one stand out, and in most probability, this is the one that's usually going to get hit. So when you do the wraps on the swivels, you want to make sure that it twists around at least twice. Anything less than that, and you could compromise losing a fish. So I'd go around at least twice on your twirls on here. So that's what the weight looks like after it's been poured as well. I didn't really get to show you that. Once it comes out of the mold, it's got a nice tapered head on it. And what I've done is I just taken that lead wire that was sticking out here and used the eyelet tool and bent it around, wrapped it around about 3 times and snipped it off. And I added an important, what I think is important, a snap swivel to the base of this. And so that's what the rig looks like. It's just a matter of attaching your favorite swim bait, curly tails, whatever it is you want, to the ends of each of the wires. And I'm going to be using this specifically for trolling. You could make smaller ones, drill a smaller hole for lead, and make the wires shorter if you wanted to do something like a small Alabama rig. You know, I think the reason that Alabama and umbrella rigs were so effective is because they mimic the real life of bait fish. You know, bait fish, when they're frightened, they tend to school up. They look to each other for protection. They look to each other for strength, but it doesn't always work out that way for them. And for many of them, they get eaten up. But you know, in life, it doesn't have to be that way for you and I. You know, wouldn't it be great if we had someone that we could put our faith in, that could protect us and watch over us and care for us? Well, we do. It's actually God. You know, I've been through a lot in my life. I'm in my 60s now, and you know, I've experienced a lot of difficulty, a lot of horrible things. You know, death of loved ones, and my son is developing a brain tumor at a very young age, and the scary prognosis and all that went through that. And I had esophageal cancer and told I only had 36 months to live at one time. You know, but through all of that, I got to tell you that I had peace in my life. And the whole reason was because I put my faith and my trust in God, the one who created all this, the one who runs everything, the one that has a plan for my life. And I know that if I put my faith and my trust in him, that no matter what happened, no matter where I went or the result of whatever took place in my life, I know that he would only want the best for me. And so therefore, it gave me peace. You know, in the Bible, it talks about Noah walking with God. And walking with God is nothing more than having a relationship with him and building that relationship over time. Every relationship is built on trust. And the more we trust people and the more they come through for us, the more we trust them. And so it is with God. You know, I've written a book. It's called Real Life Devotions for Real Life. It's free. It's in the description below. But it's my gift to you today because I want you to learn how you can walk with God as well and have the peace in your life that I've had in mine. The book takes you through a year-long journey of the scriptures. It shows you the true stories, and it shows you godly perspectives, and it gives you a 7-day checklist challenge so every week you can learn to grow more deeply with God every day. So guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us today. I really appreciate your support. And please remember, God loves you more than you could ever know. So until the next time, remember to get outdoors, and God bless.